Oh, 6. All right.
We're all digitally minded. It's 6 now.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I call this meeting to order. This is the meeting for the North Front Range Transportation and Air Quality Planning Council. Welcome, everyone, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Our next item of business is, also I wanted to tell anybody online, if you've been promoted to presenter, please accept that, because that's the only way you'll be able to speak and vote. So if you need help, maybe send a message in the chat, but we would like you to be able to do that. So we do have a quorum this evening. We'll go on to our next agenda item, which is public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? See any hands raised? Is there anyone online that can do public comment? No. Okay, we'll close public comment. Remind people they can join us next month if they want to speak to us, and people would have 2 minutes to do so. Moving on to council member announcements. Are there any announcements?
Positive or negative?
I mean, they could either way. We don't.
Did Ryan show up for me as an alternate?
Yeah, he was online.
It looks like no announcements. Anyone online for announcements? Well, just welcome to Laramie County, and we're happy to have you here. We will move on to our next agenda item, which is approval of our consent agenda. The only thing on our consent agenda is the approval of the minutes. So I would entertain a motion for that item.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the ayes have it. That's approved. So our next item is the Air Pollution Control Division. And that is written on page 17. And so we'll move to Adina Wojcik from Two Roads Environmental with the air quality program updates.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Everybody hearing okay? Yeah. We're good. Go ahead, Dina.
All right. We don't have a traditional monthly report. We're going to go through an application that we had filed jointly on behalf of you all, as well as the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, and applying for some grant funding. And this is related to holding a fall 2026 Intermountain West Ozone Conference. We've been talking about ozone challenges. We've highlighted that there's different ongoing studies that are happening, but we don't really know what the findings are. And when we happen to start talking to NPO peers in the Intermountain West, we found out that several other peers in the Phoenix area, the Salt Lake City area, in the Wasatch Front, as well as then the Las Vegas, all of those are ozone non-attainment areas, by the way. They were all experiencing kind of similar problems in terms of ozone levels not really responding to the significant reductions in ozone precursor pollutants. So ozone is not responding how we anticipated it should, with the dramatic reductions that are occurring throughout the Intermountain West. And we're all kind of trying to figure out why. And each one of those individual areas has initiated a number of different studies. And so we wanted to host a conference this fall that brings people together, brings the research community together, along with air quality planning agencies, along with local governments and non-government organizations, as well as community members, to kind of have a conversation about what's going on. And so while we're calling this a conference, we anticipate there's going to be some workshop elements. We want people to sit across the table and kind of think about or hear what their concerns are, as well as what thoughts they might have in terms of, the studies and the study findings that are coming out, and maybe think a little bit about what are the next steps, and then how do we communicate this with the public? Because and nobody's saying that ozone doesn't cause the health impacts that it's proven to. Nobody's saying that. We're just saying, we need some help in trying to figure out how to best move forward in addressing the high ozone levels in these areas. And so that's the background behind the conference. If you'll scroll down a little bit, you'll see, or in your handouts, you'll see the graphic. It shouldn't be a surprise to you, other than we did add 2024 data. We'll wait until May when the 2025 data is released and finalized. But you'll see that specifically in Denver and Phoenix, those top two colored lines on this graph, all of a sudden they kind of tapered off, and none of those lines since 2017 are terribly closely following the reductions in precursor pollutants. And so this just shows design values or ozone levels in each of those 4 non-attainment areas that I mentioned. And then the bars below that indicate the regional man-made ozone or precursors. And so that's volatile organic compounds, or things that you can kind of smell, vapors off of fuel, that kind of thing, as well as the nitrogen oxides. And those are a function, those are a pollutant that's released based on combustion of fossil fuels. And so again, you're seeing this departure where ozone was actually increasing several years, where precursor pollutants were decreasing. So anyway, that's the background. We put a proposal together. Basically, we'd like to hold a 2-day a 2-day conference for up to 500 people. We have some initial thoughts about where that is, and Larimer County is being extremely gracious with us, and offering a location. So we're in the process of pinning that down. And then we want to bring people together. So we put this application together for funding from the Air Quality Enterprise. Pretty much said we costed out what it would take to hold this. We're relying a lot on in-kind services from other agencies, other experts, but we simply were asking the AQE, or Air Quality Enterprise here in Colorado. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but the 150 of the largest air pollution fee payers. So based on the mass amount of pollution they put out per year. So it's the big like utilities and big like cement plants and those kinds of things. Those folks pay into the Air Quality Enterprise to fund various types of air pollution related projects or studies or improved modeling, all of that kind of thing. We're asking for $100,000, so less than a quarter of what we anticipate this will cost in total, to really fund scholarships and stipends to bring those researchers here. Funding, everybody knows budget cuts have hit hard, and funding to get people here is really, really paramount. And so a big part of that $100,000 that we're asking for would be used towards funding bringing those researchers here so they can share what they know, as well as in providing scholarships for local governments so that they come. We're trying to keep the costs for this relatively low so they can afford this, and so we can get them to the table to have these, to learn, but also have conversations in person. So so up there you'll see the total estimated cost at this point, and this is for a 2-day event, is $444,000. We're asking only for $100,000 from the AQE. We may, if costs change, as we get more details, we may end up having to seek additional partners, but the bulk of that 100,000 is going to be going towards the stipends for the speakers, scholarships for local governments. Again, this is an Intermountain West regional conference, and so we want to get some people from those other states to come as well. And then the additional, the remaining of that 100,000 we would use to offset like just the food and beverage costs of bringing people together for 2 days time. And so we want to kind of keep, that's the intent, is try to keep registration costs low so we can get more people to the table and talking. So we are relying on in-kind services of a planning team. You'll see that's the biggest cost out of this overall effort. It's not going to be any kind of small feat to plan this and to host this. But we've got partners with those Intermountain West NPOs, the peers that we've talked to. We've got a technical group that we've been working through, and they seem to be pretty eager to help us with like reviewing abstracts and selecting the agenda and getting the presenters here and actually offering to moderate or present at this conference. Then some of the other costs there, we talked about food and beverage, speaker stipends and scholarships, project management. That is me. And so we kind of felt that Northwood Range NPO and the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments shouldn't bear the entire burden of my involvement with this. And so we built some cost in there to offset that, so you guys wouldn't bear 100% of the cost. We also would like to bring in a facilitator because, again, we want to have those roundtable conversations where we have people with differing thoughts and opinions and backgrounds kind of talking together and learning from each other in order to kind of move forward. We've got a venue cost. We've got, again, Larimer County is donating the ranch facilities at cost. Got some people suggesting that maybe they want like a conference at a hotel. We've been trying to keep this really cheap, and we don't think this is going to be that kind of conference. So again, we're grateful for Larimer County's offering of their space. We're going to need some marketing and miscellaneous costs that come up that we just haven't fully thought through, but whether or not we need security or manage transportation to and from maybe a poster session that we might be holding off site that's more publicly accessible. That's one of the things we're thinking about. So those are the costs. And if you'll scroll down a little bit in the screen, you'll see the cost offsets. So again, we are looking at people providing in-kind services to plan this. And so the costs, again, the people that you do bring in, that's myself and perhaps another facilitator, those are not being offset. We do anticipate, we're hoping for, I guess, $100,000 from the Air Quality Enterprise. We'll see how that goes. We'll know more about that in May. And then the venue, we were thinking there's some amount of donation in there. So again, these numbers are going to kind of change a little bit. And then sponsors and vendors. So we're going to need sponsors and more so probably partners to come alongside us just to kind of, again, keep the costs low. And we may need addition more than this because right now, considering what the total costs are or how we've made these estimates and what the offsets that we anticipate are coming in, that means registration fees for a 2-day conference are roughly $220. We'd like to get that lower to make it, again, easier for people to actually come to the conference and engage in the conference. So that's it. You'll notice that the total cost and the total offsets equal. And that means we are doing this not for profit. We're doing this at cost. And so I think I've hit the highlights there. I will say that we've gotten tremendous support when we started making inquiries. We've so far made inquiries to all of you to see whether or not you'd be supportive of hosting such an event up in Northern Colorado. But we also made inquiries to some of the biggest air quality enterprise fee payers. This is not a traditional project that the air quality enterprise funds. And so there was a little bit of skepticism on whether or not this was a good idea initially. And so we went to some of the biggest fee payers. So we went to Excel, we went to Tri-State, we went to Platte River Power Authority and Colorado Springs Utilities. We went to Oil and Gas Association. And then we also went to Colorado Chamber, and all of them were very supportive of holding this conference. And we did get letters of support from them. And then, side conversations that we've had from folks. EPA Region 8, very interested in this, couldn't commit to anything, but they said they want to attend. And I'm hoping to get them to more than attend, but actually engage a little bit more. And then the Air Pollution Control Division, we've approached them. They're in the process of seeing whether or not they can commit staff. They're pretty excited about this as well, but process is a little bit slow in these bigger government organizations. So we look for some partnerships there. And then I think there's been some other engagement with folks. We will continue to engage with, we need to reach out to more research community. We need to reach out more to the non-government organizations as well as community reps, just to make sure they're aware that this is happening and make sure that they, we understand some of their questions or concerns as we continue planning forward. So on the back, if you'll scroll back up to, I think I skipped some things. We did put together some vision and goals. I kind of talked about them, but there is a draft or a proposed agenda there as well as to what we think, how this might flow. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. Where this is not set in stone. In fact, it'll be very informed by call to abstracts and that review process, as well as some other key people telling us, hey, we're really interested in the study. We want to hear more about this or that kind of thing. I also included an inset just for reference. The last time there was a kind of regional ozone conference was back in 2016. EPA hosted it in Phoenix, and all they talked about was background ozone, which is part of some of the challenges that we're of why we think ozone's not responding. But regardless, it's high time. Ozone science has changed dramatically in the past 10 years, and we just want to bring people together to talk about it. So with that, are there any questions?
This is great. More to come, right?
Yeah.
So
We got a good start here.
and I haven't been through this enterprises process before for grant funding, but it sounds like there would be an interview, like if they do kind of bring us to the next level, there would be an interview process where we would go down and speak about our proposal for the application. But I agree, Dina's done an amazing job. I just want to thank her for all her help with putting all this together. We submitted it on Tuesday. And same with Andy Gunning with Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. It's their partnership. What they have agreed to is if we are selected, PPACG said that they would be willing to be the fiscal agent to manage the contract. So that is super helpful for our agency's staffing levels. We are gonna, but we in the meantime need to create the web page to kind of put the information out there so that it can point everybody that we're letting them know about this to a single location that they can get information about. So we're super excited. I want to thank the communities that have provided letters of support. You still have time. They're giving. Apparently, this enterprise gives us 30 days to add additional materials, or is my understanding. So if you haven't got us a letter of support yet, you still have time. And we would encourage it. I do appreciate, like Larimer County, again, working with us on trying to find a venue. Weld County offered a staff person. Basically, Dr. Morales can be part with helping facilitate the planning team. for this effort. So if you have staff or your communities feel passionate about wanting to participate in this, I feel like it's a great leadership opportunity for our region. And I think that it's awesome if we can get it hosted up here. I actually think that, like Dina said, I'm not exactly sure what to do with this application, but at the same time, the AQE also should be, doing public outreach and doing these kinds of things, speaking about their enterprise. And this may be an opportunity to piggyback that effort by us doing this. So we're really excited. We're thinking, well, the ranch is available the week of October 12th. So right now, we were trying to target the end of September, beginning of October. The location isn't totally set yet. So depending on we haven't had a chance to meet with like CSU or UNC. We want to get some of our universities participating as well. So like I said, more to come, but it's really exciting. Good conversation opportunities.
Thank you. Any questions for Elizabeth or Dina?
I'm just wondering, since it's really meant to be a science meeting and sharing of scientific data, would it make sense to try to partner with a journal in that area to be able to publish the abstracts with the posters, etc., the abstracts for the posters might get more interest from professional staff if they get a reference out of it, a citable reference, and you might also get some interest from a journal because they make money off of it, so it just might raise the bar a bit. Particularly if you're trying to get a CSU with university involvement. Just a thought.
And there's a plan to reach out to atmospheric science and other kind of groups on campus.
Yeah, they have I got invited to a meeting next Tuesday. So I'm gonna try. That'll be my first.
But some academic might already be on a journal board or something, you might have a connection there. It's worth at least exploring.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Well,
if I
yeah.
could respond to that.
Yeah, please.
So I think that's a great point. And in fact, the Air Quality Enterprise has a number of researchers actually on the board. So they were, from what I understand, they're pretty excited about this. I do have a call set up with Jeff Collette with Colorado State University tomorrow as well.
He's on the rack. Is he still on the rack?
I don't think he is. I think one of his peers, he's got another colleague there. We're also set to talk to some researchers in Arizona that are doing work for the Phoenix area. And they've been struggling with, well, we have these studies, where do we present them? And then they were going to go to a very technical conference, which is awesome. But the planning agencies aren't there and the public's not there. And if the public's there, they're not going to understand it. And so that's a really important point. We're going to set the stage with this conference. The first half or first part of it is going to be creating a basic body of knowledge or foundational knowledge and then encouraging presenters so they're not just talking to other people that know exactly what they're saying, that they're actually bringing that down, and that we're going to use presenters and moderators to kind of help with that process. We do envision 3 deliverables out of this project. So first of all, we envision a list of attendees, and those folks that assuming we're getting an Air Quality Enterprise grant, the people that got funded, to bring them here, or scholarships to get them to the conference, as well as then we want to put together, we're going to have some roundtable conversations about ozone and next steps, and then how to communicate the challenges of ozone when if we can't meet a standard because, there's wildfires that day, or we can't meet the standard because, there meteorology that's really creating a huge impact. And how do you communicate that to the public? And I think that's really important to have a variety of perspectives at the table, talking about that. So again, we're going to have those deliverables. And the last thing is a list of all the presentations. So we are putting that together. We don't know exactly yet, if that's going to be hosted online, because that could be pretty big, or just kind of some shared drive where somebody could access it. So there's some details that we obviously have to work out, but we do envision those as being deliverables and those being publicly available.
I do think a variety of viewpoints is a really important piece. And a variety of like sponsors, right? So it doesn't look that it's sort of slanted in any kind of way, right? That there's that openness to that information. So I think that that's something to really strive for, is sort of that balance of, because there are going to be differing viewpoints about what to do about this, if to do anything about this, what should be done, I mean, especially in the space of what action steps we should take, right? There's some folks that are maybe more of the mindset of there's not a lot we can do about this, so we shouldn't be held to the standard. And there's other people of viewpoint that we need to keep trying because there's health, poor health outcomes that are associated with high ground level ozone. So I guess, just making sure that we maintain that balance. I think that keeps that respectability about the conference as well too. So just, I know you both know that, and just kind of throwing that out there. I mean, for example, like if you have oil and gas sponsors, I think that's fine. But I would also try to have some sponsors that maybe have a different, viewpoint from like an alternative energy viewpoint, for example, or something like that, just to create that sense of balance. So, but I'm excited. I think it's great. It's going to be great that we're, kind of looking at this as not just a region, but as a, multi-state kind of jurisdictions of, how do we solve this problem? Because everybody in the West is facing this because of the sunshine and mountains. All right. So I think everybody's set, and we'll move on. If you have any ideas of sponsors or things you want to see, or you have connections that you want to, I think, be in touch with Dina. It's a bit on that. So we will move on to our next agenda item, which is item 7. That's the Regional Air Quality Council. We met in person last month. I believe it was February. It's been a while. Well, what's today? It was February 6th. It was the day after our last meeting. We met in person in Louisville. Did meet there to learn about some of the work that they're doing on both climate and environmental concerns. We also had a food truck meet us there who was a recipient of the Engines Off program. That's a program that electrifies food trucks. So instead of having the loud, noisy generator that's kind of smelly, and there are grants for food trucks to be able to operate with to be electrified instead of having that. And so we had a coffee truck come, and it was very nice and quiet. As you said, it was not just the air quality. For the people that worked on the truck, it was the noise and the vibration that you get from the generator. So it was kind of neat to learn about that program. We also discussed some other programs.
Kristen, can I ask you?
Sure.
How did they have to find a spot to plug in? How's that work?
Yeah.
Because the generator is free to go anywhere.
It does. And so I know in Louisville, they have sort of some, they built places for people to plug in their sort of town center. But yeah, I think that's something that, you would have to accommodate, but there again, like they are pretty, I mean, even if, there are multiple reasons why they're a good idea. So, but yes, the plug-in would be.
Sure.
Then we also talked about, the grant that the, BRAC received from NAPME. It was over $1 million, and, one of the things that's gonna start happening in both Weld and Lamar County is being able to fix people's, vehicles who don't pass the emissions test. So if they can't pass the emissions test and they can't afford to fix their car, then, they should be able to fix about 20 to 30 cars a year in both Larimer and Weld County. And so they've identified their first shop that will help do that, and that is on North College. I think they're still actively looking for a place in Weld for people to go to, but they do some means testing for income to make sure that the people that are income qualified to receive those kind of funds. But just wanted folks to know that those dollars will be coming into our communities for the auto repair program. Something else that I'm thinking of right off. I mean, just some discussion around the control strategies that that blueprint that there's no new information on that blueprint, but that blueprint is sort of a moving document and there's more information. We have more information about some of those control strategies that we'll be adding to that blueprint, potentially looking at adopting the version of what it will be in November of this year. So if anyone has any questions, I will find out for you all when Weld County has a spot for that, and you can find out more details about the shop that does it, and how people get qualified to do that. But I think that's a great program because it helps, it helps folks who are on lower incomes, and it gives us
There a threshold on, because like last time I went through the emissions thing, I failed, but I just needed a new gas cap. And it was, $18 to put a new gas cap on and do that. So is there a threshold on like, you can pay for certain things, but not up to or below a certain amount?
I mean, there is a kind of a requirement that if it costs more than a certain amount, people don't have to fix it, like they can spend $750. And if it costs more than that, I believe there's some waiver kind of programs, at least for a year or so. That's a good question, and I'll ask that question.
It was one of the things I asked the RAC to use their, like, when they were coming around and saying, hey, do you have recommendations? I said, can't you just leave a bunch of gas caps for you're the most, the type of vehicles that you see the most in your facility, and just buy them, but use this funding to buy the gas caps, or
And buy them in bulk and have them.
And then
because
have
then I had to drive all the way across town buying a gas
There
cap,
might
right
be.
back and pay the money.
right.
Yeah, I don't know how many gas caps are, different gas caps for different kinds of model cars. That might be a big endeavor.
I just didn't know if like
Right.
90% of the vehicles they see in a region or a Toyota or like
Yeah.
maybe they could.
I think most people likely can afford that kind of fix. So I think this is really aimed at folks that have, costs that would be into the hundreds and maybe thousands of dollars, and that's exciting. So, they've been doing it in the Dr. Cog area for many years, and they do about 100 cars a year in the Dr. Cog area. So I'm glad you have the dollars to help people out, and I'm sure it's a little up to this moment about that ability in compliance with the laws. So, but I'll find out some of the information about the threshold. And then with regard to the item 8 is the non-attainment area air pollution mitigation enterprise. We approved the new fees, so the fees are tied to the consumer index, and so they go up with inflation. So both the retail delivery fee and the ride share fee were increased, by less than I believe the ride share was less than a penny. I think the retail delivery fee might have been a couple cents. We will be meeting in April in Fort Collins. If anybody wants to join us for the NAPME, because we're considering funding bus rapid transit. Fort Collins has the only operating bus rapid transit in the state. There's others that are being contemplated or being worked on, but they're going to come for a little lunch and a field trip, and we're going to here from Transport and around the Max. And so if anybody wants to join us, you can join us. And I can make sure that Elizabeth sends out the details for that. And that was a short meeting. That was about it for now, maybe. Any questions? All right, report of the chair. Well, you guys, all right, just a couple of things. First of all, everybody should have a paper on their, on the table about the, we can give some if anybody else wants some, but this is about the BASIC Act. And BASICs is Bridges and Safety Infrastructure for Community Success Act. And we can send this out to people who are online. But basically, this is a bill that was prepared by several county organizations at the national level. The idea is to bring more funding, formula funding, and I think I might have touched on it last time, more formula funding to MPOs and local governments. So right now we get some formula funding through the state, and we definitely can apply for competitive grants, but we know that's not always enough to fix the problems that we have in our communities. There is an investment in repairing bridges. Counties own about 40% or more of bridges that are in communities. We also own 40% or more of the roads and are required to maintain those. And so this would bring some dollars for that. Some focus on road safety, ensuring that some transparency around how the funding flows, strengthening rural transportation planning organizations, which we don't have in Colorado. We have TPRs, which are state and rural transportation planning organizations are federally designated areas. But the idea is that this has bipartisan sponsorship in the House, that it would be a way to get more dollars into our communities, and more dollars in general for the STBG funds. So states would get more dollars as well, but we would actually see some of those dollars come directly to us, or at least a higher percentage that come from the state to us. So there's more information online about this, but we talked about this at the National Association of Counties conference that I was at last month. And I think this is a great idea. One of the staffers was responsible for helping to write this bill. So would appreciate your looking it over, seeing if you support it. If you do support it, we do have a letter. I would that Elizabeth's prepared, and I can sign this letter if folks are in support of that, to support this bill, asking our representatives to sign on as co-sponsors, and then asking our senators to try to introduce this into the Senate. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about that, and I would be happy to. Do we need a motion to sign that?
I need to read it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's the template letter from Lot Coalition. So, and we can, the Lot Coalition, the consortium that is basically a representative NACO, National League of Cities, AMPO,
U.S. Conference of Mayors, National League of Cities, the National Association of Regional Councils, Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations are all in support of that.
so they,
Yeah, please.
and the website has like the standard, like letters for MPOs, letters for communities. So we just were using the template that they provided on their website. And they're just asking MPOs to submit, letters of support for the BASIC Act. So I just wanted to see if that's something you guys want to entertain. I'm happy to email out the letter.
I'd like to look into the act a little bit more to make sure I understand it.
Sure.
Yeah, we definitely have some bridges in Loveland that still need repair after the 2013 flood. And that's, I actually just sent a text out, that's not a question on that one, so.
Yeah, I mean, why don't we have folks take a look at it, and then we can either, is it too late, do you think, to bring it back to next month's meeting? Or should we
Do it already.
Yeah, guys, I think we do it like we just did with the other.
I don't think it necessarily takes a vote, just some consensus around.
Yeah.
But take a look. I think that there's some great ideas. He was definitely supportive of communities getting more dollars.
Well, that, yeah, I would What anchor they hang around?
That's
It depends on what.
the anchor they put around. What's the ask? What's the ask for the funds you get?
What's
And
it take?
the MPOs in general, I would say are supporting it because it's increasing the planning dollars that come through, and that could be directly distributed to MPOs and not necessarily
Okay.
have to be contracted through the state to do all of the plannings and, things that we're required to do. It would increase those planning dollars.
State DOTs in large part are not supported. ASHTO.
Well, that makes it more
Ash-
interesting for me.
ASHTO. So I also, in case you want to have, why is ASHTO basically, they're gonna argue maybe that it's reducing DOT funding. It's not. So I can also share, the arguments for what some of those entities are saying it is. In general, this is to increase state funding by 11%. So, I think I can send out the links to the different positions that the different organizations have so that you guys can
I'm
have.
not against anything I'm saying, I just want to.
Yeah, no.
People just, know what they're supporting, so.
Yeah, I appreciate, I've had a lot of research on it here lately, because I asked Elizabeth for talking points when I head to DC next week on this, and so I've done a lot too, and it's nice to read through all of the different, she sent out some great resources with it.
Just
So
send some of that stuff out. there.
I'll send you some links. Yeah, not a problem.
So that's how we'll deal with that, and then if you could just let us know via email if you're supportive of whatever, don't need to send that out. And also say, I did attend the National Association of Counties. I'm one of the vice chairs of our transportation committee. In addition to talking about this, we also talked about the surface transportation reauthorization, which may or may not happen this year. There is some urgency because the person who chairs the committee for that is termed out. And so there's always a feather in your cap if you can get that passed. That being said, that is a bill that's never been passed on time in the history of the bill. So, we will see if that gets passed. In the meantime, there might be, I guess keep talking to your representatives about getting that passed, some of the things that we'd like to see in that. Not only some of the things that are included in basics, but I think that there's some opportunities for streamlining some processes, including, the competitive grants that we get through the department. Just making that sort of an easier and maybe having more that are that where counties and local governments are the only ones eligible for those grants, like Safe Streets and Roads for All. So keep an eye on that. And then if you did receive the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant, planning grant, which I think a lot of communities have, there will be a NOFO that's coming out. So an opportunity for funding in the next, well, I've heard a couple different timelines, but maybe 3 weeks up to early summer. There'll be $1 billion available to communities, 70% of which will be implementation grants and 30% if you haven't received a planning grant, then you can apply for the planning grant. So keep your eye out for that because that's a great opportunity to get some safety dollars into your community. And then we've got to tour all the Amtrak facilities that Union Station in their transportation. So that was good. The only other thing I have is that so we had this ready last month and we forgot to do it, but John Mallow, would you come up here, please?
No. You're not in trouble.
We wanted to present you with the certificate.
But you should go to the front, John.
Yeah.
You have to be back here.
All right, so John Mallow, former Mayor Pro Tem of Loveland, is also chair of this body and vice chair and a member in good standing for 4 years. And so we thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you all.
We also have one, Patricia Canonico. Unfortunately, she's unable to make it tonight, but we will make sure that she gets it. She was also a member for 4 years and maybe even 5 years. And so we'll make sure that she gets hers too. But as you know, they're still both active in the NPO because they're representing us on the North Range Passenger Rail Board. So we thank you for your continued service. And with that, that's all I have for the chair. I'll turn it over to Elizabeth for the executive director.
All right. In your packet is a handout talking about traffic fatalities in Colorado and in Weldon, Larimer. So we just wanted to bring it to your attention, make sure that you're aware of it. The fatalities in 2024 were higher. So we keep talking about safety. The 2025 numbers are current through February 18th of this year. The only caveat I would say to this data is that these are not geolocated crash data, so we can't speak exactly how many of them are within the MPO map. So these would be the totals for Larimer Wells. So again, safety is going to be a continued topic. We're going to be focusing on how we're going to be reducing fatalities in the region. I also want to thank the communities for providing letters of support for our state highway office safety grant that Michaela's working on. If you haven't got a letter of support for that application to us, she was asking for them by tomorrow. So let us know if you're able to provide a letter of support. Again, that would be to go after a grant that would help fund a safety roundtable conference in 2027, where we can all get our partners together and really talk about safety regionally and what that means for us all. I also want to let you guys know that Jonathan is working really hard on updating the colors of our logo and our color palette so that we can be accessible in all things website, social media, documents. So we'll be presenting maybe in a future meeting to you guys our updated color palette. And accessibility, I think, is, as you can see on their faces, the bane of all of our existence officially. But we did come across a grant opportunity today that maybe we can go after some grant funds to help pay for accessibility software so we can buy more licenses so we all don't, one person doesn't have to be doing everything, I guess. Not that they want to share the love in that, but because it's painful love. But we wanted to bring to your attention that accessibility colors with our current logo and what we have is an issue. And it's an ongoing problem that we have. And it's not that logos are required to be accessible, but usually your logo determines kind of like your color influence for the rest of your presentations that you do and everything else you do. And if that color is not accessible, your whole website's pretty much not. So we're going to look at getting that updated and making sure we're in compliance. And it is the gift that keeps on giving. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, I never knew that accessibility software costs.
I can also tell you that the federal government is not 100% accessible. All over the websites.
Yeah, I mean, I think what makes me sad in it is before you could go onto somebody's website and find a ton of documents, but because we're all so afraid of them not being accessible, all the documents have been pulled off everybody's websites, and now you can't find anything without a core request.
And there's the problem in the federal government.
So, you know, we're all working through it. I think the intent behind it is absolutely 100% what you want to have as a public agency. But how we make that happen, I think, is maybe a little bit more difficult than something is saying it as easy as this is accessible. So we're continuing to work through that. And, you know, whether we're just darkening our colors, we may make a little tweak to the logo itself to be a little more representative of our area, but we'll bring that back to you. It's more to come. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Also, the city of Fort Collins has reached out. They're talking about, you know, we have our Fort Collins exchange program that we do that helps fund our Van Gogh. They are wanting to talk about formalizing the agreement with that we have with their partners through an intergovernmental agreement. So they're probably going to be drafting. I actually was surprised that we didn't have an intergovernmental agreement talking about those exchange dollars anyway. So I think I'm not worried about it. It's just that'll be probably a future agenda item for your guys' consideration. Once we have an idea what that looks like. Right now, our accounting team is deep in audit and working through trying to deliver our preliminary trial balance tomorrow to our consultants. So it's been a busy week. It is bringing to light as we're going through some of our interviews that there's many of our policies and procedures that haven't been updated since 2019 or so. So what is happening is that they're, instead of piecemealing some of these policy updates, I think what it's going to lead us to do is just take a look at the employee handbook in general and update the whole. So there'll be more to come on that as well. We just need to make sure that we're in compliance with our current laws and regulations and that we're providing staff the transparency on our organizational operations for them as well. So more to come on some of those updates. I want to thank Loveland, Severance, Greeley. These are the communities that myself and staff have had a chance to meet with so far as we're making the rounds around the region. I appreciate the conversations and hearing about what's going on in the communities. I'm going to, as time allows, I'm still reaching out to, my goal obviously is to hit every community in our region this year. So that's just a heads up. If I haven't reached out yet, it's coming. So you've been officially warned. But I don't have anything else.
Any questions for Elizabeth? I would just say that we're also, we're all doing the work of updating and trying to have the websites be accessible. So if you ever need any ideas or want to bat around anything that we've been doing, we feel like we're at, I think, like around 90% accessible, which is, I think, pretty good. I mean, you're always trying for 100, but things happen. So, but anyway, we'd be able to, if you wanted to meet with our folks, you could get some ideas or see what kind of software we use. I know that we're switching from like our agendas and meeting minutes and things like that used to be on a different program, and the new program called Civic Plus, because they do provide that accessibility in those. We call those, I think, what we're, I don't know, Civic Plus. So there, and that was a fairly inexpensive switch. And some of them you're right, though. There's some expense involved in those dang PDFs or.
Right. And depending on what filter you use, you can take the same document and put it through two different softwares and get two different results on your accessibility levels. So it's, yeah.
Good work, guys. Yeah. I didn't even think about the color piece, so that should actually be better. I don't know as much about it as others do. All right, any other questions before we move on? Is Trisha online maybe?
Madam Chair, this is Cecil,
Oh, I see.
and because Tricia's not going to be here tonight, she asked if I would do the CTIO report, if that's okay with you.
That would be wonderful. Thank you, Cecil.
And then, if with your permission, I'm going to combine the Transportation Commission report along with it, because CTIO board and the Transportation Commission have been meeting jointly for the last couple of months, and so the issues are the same for both. And I think I can cover both of these if that's okay with you.
That would be great. And then you're obviously welcome to hang around, but if you can't, then you wouldn't have to hang around at the end of the meeting. So perfect.
Great, thank you. Well, I think there's it has been really a busy last few months. I think you're all aware that CTIO purchased Burnham Yard a number of years ago. It was to try to utilize it for front range passenger rail. It was determined that we didn't need all of that land, and so, as you've heard on all of the news, Burnham Yard will be the new home of the Denver Broncos. CTIO will be finalizing the sale of that with the Broncos, and that sale document will be approved in this upcoming month. And that both boards reviewed that this last month. Floyd Hill, we got a great presentation on Floyd Hill and what is going on there. And if you have a chance to go on the CDOT website, you can find a flyover view of what the progress is and what the final product will look like. CTIO will be going out for a bond to or a loan, depending on the best way to do that, to help fund part of that Floyd Hill project, which is an extremely expensive project to get done. Coming up this month, CTIO will see a funding plan for the North I-25 for all of the segments 2, 3, and 4 funding plan. We will see that funding plan this month, and Tricia and I will be thrilled to be able to share that with you next month. It's taken some time to do because there are some complexities involved with how the funding will occur and where it's going to really when you think about especially segment 2, those there will be a time when those toll lanes will be closed. So there'll be revenue. That's why it's taking some time projecting what revenue losses. And then, of course, 6, 7, and 8 are coming online and how that will offset those closures. So we're excited to see that funding plan for I-25. We will also be taking a look at for strategies for potential funding plan for 270, because 270 is still in a draft EIS. We can't really put a funding plan together until we know exactly what we're looking at and what the costs will be and how we're going to be able to potentially fund those. But we will be looking at strategies during this next month. We will also have an additional session on Bustang. And as I reported to you last time, and I know that most of you were aware of how frustrated I was with that whole process. One of the biggest frustrations that I've had with it is that staff has come forward with only one plan, potential plan for funding Bustang, and that is diverting tolling to funding Bustang, and so I believe that there are other opportunities. We've not had the opportunity as a Transportation Commissioner or CTIO board to really look at those funding options that are out there, which I believe are there without having to remove the corridor restrictions and using tolling to fund Bustang. But we haven't had that discussion, and I think that's going to be the reason for this next session. I have been asking for that since January. And I think that's going to be, I've asked a lot of significant questions about ridership and what the fare box return is from each of these corridors. And then we've only seen a 3-year lookout for what the costs are going to be for Bustang. When I first asked in January what it is that we were really needing to look at, we were told $30 to $40 million. I'm going to show you some additional information tonight, and as we look out further, just even 3 years, the cost is much more than $30 or $40 million. So what I've done, I'm going to present to you tonight some of the slides that we looked at this last month. And on Bustang, and I think it's important to understand the history of Bustang. Bustang was started in 2015, and it was only a commuter service that was established along the 2 main corridors, I-25 and I-70. And that was and that was really working pretty well. It was funding itself between the fare box and what was in some of the grant funding that was coming through from the federal government. Uh, so what I'm showing you on this particular slide, and by the way, you have the entire packet, so you can read through the entire packet, and you're more than welcome to reach out to me if you have questions on any of this. What I just told you about, it started out as a commuter service, but in uh, May 2022, Senate Bill 22-180 provided $30 million over 3 years to implement what they called a pilot service expansion program to prove that that Mustang could be successful as much more than just a commuter service. The big issue for me was that it was started with one-time money. And as we know, when you start a program, citizens become all of a sudden, whether it was regardless of how it was started, if it's successful, citizens feel entitled to that the continuation of that program, and so that's why that one-time money in that was issued in 2022 has got us to this fiscal cliff that we're facing right now this year. And as you can see, the number of before SB 22-180, you can see the number of round trips along I-25 for Collins to Denver, I-25 South, Colorado Springs to Denver were identical. I-70 West, 4 daily round trips, 2 from Denver to Grand Junction, 1 from Denver to Glenwood Springs, and 1 from Denver to Avon. In the phase 1 expansion was completed in fall of 2024, and you can see the number of trips that were added. And then by winter of 2024, the full expansion took place, which you can see by the chart there that basically we doubled I-25 North and I-25 South, and the I-70 really was expanded massively. If next slide, please. And you can see the ridership. It's been successful because the ridership, and you can see the drop off that was during COVID. But then you can see that since COVID there has been a significant rebound, and you can see the ridership success from the expansion of this program. Next slide, please. Actually, thank you. What I wanted to show you is that where we were with the funding, and you can see where that in 2023 the funding went into effect, and how big a spike of funding that got, and then you can see that over the 3 years that spending was spent down. Now in 2026, fiscal year 2026, we received a general fund transfer in order to not all of a sudden have to reduce services. The other thing there is that you will see that 27, 28, 29, and 30, it pretty well tapers across there. Next slide. What they're projecting here is what it would take to continue the service, and with a 5% growth over the years. And this is considering 5% and 4%, which is the green line, which is the top line. And then if you don't do the annual growth escalator, it's the pink line down the bottom line there. So when you take a look at that cost, you can see that by 2030, the cost for Mustang will basically almost double, even without the annual growth escalator. And so that's where we've got a problem. So let's take a look at the next slide, please. And this is where the current funding is coming from. And you can see that MMOF funds are being used. The 10-year capital plan, $6 million is programmed annually. That's for purchase of buses and capital equipment. You can see that $6 million is being used from Faster. The Federal Transit Authority funds, you can see where that is, and then the fare box and what that's collecting. So you can see what the revenue is at the bottom there. Basically, we're looking at 22 to 23.5 million dollars between 2027 and fiscal year 30. Expenses on the next slide. What you can see here is that even in 27, there is a deficit that between what your income is, what your revenue is, and what your expenses are. In 27, the total cost for Bustang was $50.6 million. By fiscal year 30, it is anticipated to be $64.8 million. So instead of a $28 million gap in 27, we're at 41 million plus by fiscal year 30. And so this slide was the one that caused me to ask that I wanted to see a 10-year forecast, because I want to see what that curve really looks like in the out years. Because if that continues to grow, that becomes problematic, and we know that with inflation and with that there will be additional costs. So here's the next slide. This is the proposed funding, assuming 5% annual service growth. So in fiscal year 27, even with everything we've talked about, there's a $7 million deficit that CDOT is looking at trying to make sure that doesn't, that they can take care of it. There's going to be ways, efficiencies and so on, that they're looking at to reduce that $7 million cost. But by fiscal year 28, that's where the $31 million, you cannot do efficiencies. You can't find a few $100,000 here and a few $100,000 there and a couple of $1 million here and there to make up the difference like you can in 27. So that's when you start looking at that $31 million fiscal cliff, and then $39.3 million by fiscal year 30. So the next slide, please. So what the proposal is additional funding in CDOT fiscal year 27 that gets us that $7 million remaining funding gap, existing CDOT revenue sources that are transit eligible, and so on. Now the next one, that last bullet point, strategies under consideration include partnering with CTIO, and that's kind of where some of the crux of the problem is for me, and where I'm having some problems with it. And then I think finally, what I'd like to say is this, that I think there is a way to solve this problem. And I think that that this next month, by having those conversations where there might be additional CDOT fundings, some TC, some Transportation Commission funds that they have control over, that maybe there truly is a way for CTIO and the Transportation Commission to come up with a funding plan that can solve this problem. And let me be very, very clear. I want to be very, very clear and upfront with everybody that I am a big supporter of Bustang. I want to make sure that Bustang succeeds. I want to make sure that people have the options of being able to have other sources of being able to travel without having to drive on our highways. As a senior citizen myself, I guarantee you that I try to use public transportation as much as I possibly can, so I don't have to drive on those major roads. And I'm sure you all appreciate it. So uh, I want to make that very perfectly clear because I'm not anti-Mustang. I'm a very strong supporter of Mustang. I'm also a major supporter of of rail. So um, I hope this next month will be great news for I-25. I think the key piece of it here is that we know we have a funding plan coming for I-25, all the segments. There's still that hang up that that segments 3 and 4 are predicated on us finding funding for Mustang, and I think that's quite frankly political pressure in it, and that really aggravates me. But I will uh, stop there and answer any questions if anybody has any questions.
There are questions, Cecil, and we'll start with, Councilmember Olson.
So Cecil, I appreciate your work. Thanks for fighting hard. One of the things I would say is Mustang has grown, I think, a little bit faster than we all anticipated, and I think that the DOT anticipated without really a true revenue source. So I think you're dealing with that. The only thing I would say is I-25 is the cash cow, and that's what they want to touch. And I think you know that. I think that's what's bothering you. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done on I-25. There's still an additional lane that needs to be added on I-25 according to the EIS. There's maintenance on that corridor. There's a lot of things. I would say, whether I like it or not, Mustang on I-25 coming out of the CTIO for I-25 is okay. Anytime there's a South Gap, if Mustang's running the South Gap, that should help pay for Mustang down there. But what I'm really afraid of is, since I-25 is the cash cow and I-25 Mustang is probably the most traveled and most used, that they're going to try to tap into that money to move I-25 money to I-70. And I-70 is not where it struggles, right? I mean, it doesn't have the ridership. It doesn't pay for itself as much as I-25 does. So I appreciate your work, but fighting for that, and if there's anything we need to do, I just don't want to see the money from 25 start being moved around to other corridors.
Yeah, and I think listen, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of you up here. I have communicated that. I also hear that pretty loudly and clearly from leaders down in the South Gap area, down in the Pikes Peak area. They have the same concerns. They have an issue where they want to try to finish South Gap all the way through Colorado Springs down and past Colorado Springs beyond the military bases down there. So they have the same concerns that you just expressed. And
you need us to do anything? Do you need us to come down and do our 3 minutes or 2 minutes? Is there anything you need from us to help you with that message? So it's not, I know you deliver our message for us, but it would help from us up north to support you. I mean, I think Adams County and Weld County and Lambert County don't want to see their money going to I-70.
yeah, I listen. I always encourage public comment, and I think I think if you all want to make that 3 minute public comment, and I think you're welcome to do it at both CTIO and at the Transportation Commission. Yeah,
so we're putting a letter together from this board.
If that's what the board would like, I'm not going to. I think you all have to decide.
I think we should.
You as a if you're going to do it as a group, I think you all have to decide whether or not you can live with this legislation that's being proposed to remove those corridor restrictions, and if I will represent this region the way you all tell me you want me to represent you. I've always done that, and I will continue to do that.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this as a business, which I realize it's not, it's largely publicly funded, but there are differences in fare box coverage between different routes. I'm sure there are differences in ridership, and when you have a big funding shortfall, one of the things, besides looking at where else you can get money to support it, why isn't there any serious look at efficiencies here? Are there routes that are, 15 runs on the I-70 corridor is an awful lot.
12%.
Yeah, but my point is that this is not a total look at what's our business model, how can we be more efficient about it, in addition to looking for additional funds. It's where can we get the money to cover what we're doing exactly the way we're doing it, when the way we're doing it results in a huge multi-million-dollar shortfall that keeps getting worse over time. It doesn't make sense to me.
There, this coming month, here in a couple of weeks, when we have that joint workshop again with Bustang, it'll be on the Wednesday afternoon of the Transportation Commission meeting. That at 12:30. By the way, any of you who want to listen in, you're more than welcome to do that as well to see what the discussion is. There are efficiencies, and I think they're going to be presenting some efficiencies that they have looked at since some of us started asking those hard questions about exactly what you're saying. Some of it has got to be efficiencies. Here's I think the biggest problem when you look at if you can go back to slide 12, you can see that the biggest cost is that I-70 West line, that that takes up almost half of the cost. And when you're doing long distance bus service like that, your percentage of fare box recovery is going to be minuscule compared to your cost. So I think that's where you may have to take a look at some efficiencies there, as you suggest, and I will be interested to see what they present this next in a couple of weeks here. So, a good point. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that line makes no sense. That it's that.
And I know that they just they have. I know that they're constantly looking at that at some of those routes. I know they just changed a route coming out of Sterling because of lack of ridership. So and I think the route from Sterling to Greeley, but they added coverage from Sterling to DIA because there was increased demand there. So I believe they're trying to do that. Look, anytime you run a transit system, we all know it's expensive, and especially if you're trying to cover the entire state. So, but I again, we'll continue to make that point about efficiencies.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So wonderful. I'm not gonna repeat what was just said because I agree with both the last two speakers in there. I guess my question goes to you is, although your eyes may be going, Cecil, I know your ear is to the ground always. What's your confidence level that they may be willing to look at a secondary way of doing this?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
What's good? I thought. What's your confidence level? They may be willing to look at the second one, or is it just too soon to ask?
Um, I, I think we're still in major discussions about everything. I don't know where we are, and I don't think the commission or the board is ready to vote on anything. Quite frankly, there's just too many unanswered questions still, and I'm not the only one asking questions. There are other commissioners asking questions too. And until you can get all those questions answered to where every commissioner and every CTIO board member is confident in the way to solve this, I don't know. It may get pushed out. Quite frankly, there's a possibility it could get pushed out. We're good through the fiscal year 27. It's after that, and so it seems to me there's a kind of been a push to hurry this legislation up, and I'm not sure that everybody is comfortable with that. Did that answer the question?
Yes, you pled the
Okay.
fifth and we still have to wait.
Yeah, listen,
Okay.
Mustang we're going to keep Mustang around. It's just a matter now of wrangling how we're going to get past this issue and how we end up doing it.
Any other questions for Cecil? Anyone online or? I'll just say, Cecil, we had the same conversation at the stack today. Preview for the stack presentation. And
Great.
there were a lot of questions that were asked, and I asked some questions about efficiencies that could be found. Do we need all those routes into the mountains I mean, Councilmember Olson says they're not, some of those buses are only 12% full. So can it be a smaller bus? Would that be more efficient? Can there be, less frequency? Somebody asked about public-private partnerships. So there were a lot of ideas that were sort of, asked, a lot of concerns that people expressed. I mean, definitely all supportive of bus lane continuing. It's a great service for our state. And, funding, a lot of skepticism around funding through CTIL, especially off corridors funding. So I guess, we'll wait to hear from you, and certainly would appreciate any ideas that you have. If you have this magic funding source, I'm sure that would also love to hear about
There's a
that.
magic funding source. It's called borrow from Peter to pay Paul.
Well, yeah, understand that.
Well,
Yeah, $41 deficit, it's not, Peter didn't have that much money.
Oh, Peter's gonna start cracking.
He's not gonna cough.
Well, that,
41
and Cecil's right. That number, you just take the percentage of increase per year over the 5 years, that number's gonna continue to go up.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, for
maintenance,
sure.
buying buses, you can't drive a bus for 30 years, right? So that number's gonna continue to go up. So they're gonna have funding gaps for
Well,
a long
and
time until they figure this out.
even if you did take money out of the corridor, eventually it's not gonna be enough. Which is, I think if you plot it out like Cecil suggested, 10 years, and you said, okay, what if we did take the money out of the corridor to cover the deficit? Eventually, it's not gonna cover it. So you're just delaying the problem because you're not dealing with running the business the way it needs to be run.
But they're.
That's the fundamental issue is how do you do this in a more efficient way that's respectful of the taxpayers'
Clearly it
dollars?
needs a dedicated funding source. I don't know why, to a certain extent, if you're proposing all those enterprises in whatever that was, 2022, that wasn't a proposed enterprise.
before.
I mean, if you were gonna do a fee collecting, why wasn't that one of them? I understand that it's actually taking from maybe the electric vehicle enterprise, or that there's some.
MMOF.
MMOF.
Yeah,
I
but
was
it's
just
not
gonna
a
say,
lot of money.
is that the
in it.
general fund MMOF or the retail
Well,
delivery
that's
fee
the
MMOF?
Yeah, the MMOF, that's a whole nother discussion. We got a lot to
It's the
discuss.
state.
It's a statewide MMOF. It's the statewide
I'm
MMOF.
sure they
Yeah.
borrow.
Yeah,
Um,
well, based on the news we just heard today, is that general fund MMOF is done.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
so now will that retail delivery fee of the portion of the MMOF cover?
No.
No,
It'll cover about half of the,
Yeah.
about half of what
But
was.
then, see, now we have
There's
to
a deal
dedicate.
to get rid of some of those fees. this
That's
year.
not gonna happen.
Here's the here let me give you my take that I haven't panicked yet. I got frustrated, I got angry, and then once I got over being angry and decided to channel my energies to looking at the funding and the budgets and all of that, I really believe we can make this work. And it's just a matter of doing it from my perspective the right way. And uh, Kristen, I'm real pleased to hear that there was a significant pushback from Stack, from as a whole to or a large portion of the Stack members pushing against this, removing the funding from the corridors. So
Let's be clear. I can tell you right now that North and South I-25, take it out of their managed lanes. It won't hurt them much and it'll cover those gaps. You can't cover the other ones. That's the problem.
well,
They-
there's
They
yeah.
can solve 25 North and 25 South.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's small money coming out of the
Exactly.
tolls.
Exactly.
Because it collects, it's got ridership, it pays almost for itself, right? Well, as much as
Right.
it pays for itself. But at the end of the day, they're trying to solve.
And they're
Those-
also shorter runs, which
Yeah.
is the other problem with the I-70 West. The reason it's so expensive is because it's so darn long.
I mean, that begs the question of, do they all need to be as long? If we looked at efficiencies, my understanding is that there's not a real granular data on like who gets on where and where they get off.
Nope.
And you can't make good decisions without having that information
They
about what
run
to
a
cost.
transit system, but they don't run an operational transit system.
And
like
that's
cities do.
not hard data to
They just
gather,
don't.
to be honest.
They've never managed it that way.
Right, and so I think that there's a lot of information that's missing to be able to make a decision here. So.
well,
Good
and
luck.
that's where I've been.
But I do think we should send at least if no one goes down and represents this, I think we should send a letter with some of our concerns and what we believe that should be efficiently looked at efficiencies and looked at other ways of doing it. But taking money out of 25, punishing Northern Colorado because that managed lane is being driven by people in Northern Colorado.
I mean, to be fair, there's probably people from Northern Colorado that also use the I-70.
And we do, but I'm saying
Wouldn't it be nice to have those?
the cash cow is 25 because we move between Denver.
There's probably 5.
Who knows? If it's open.
Well, and then, right, snow staying is actually funded by the ski resorts, and so who are those folks that are also riding that bus? Are they ski employees? Are they commuters? Are they tourists? Like, that could also depend on what that funding should look like and who we approach if we're interested in any kind of P3 situation.
I'm sure that goes back to what you said. Until you have that data, how can you make a damn decision on it?
So,
Here's- Let me talk a little bit about the data, and that's been
Yeah.
that's been a real sticking point for me on the data. They don't have the capabilities right at the moment to gather some of the data that we really feel we need, and so what's kind of ironic is that CTIO is putting we're going to be doing all of our own back office work, and in our system we'll be able to give them that data. We can support getting that data that they've never been able to get before, but we're not ready to. We're probably a year out before we start doing all of that ourselves instead of depending on E470. So we're on an exit strategy, and once we get good data, then but by then we don't have the ability to give them that data yet, and they don't have that ability yet either. So it's a problem. It's a huge problem.
yeah, I guess I don't understand. I bought a ticket online for my mom for bus staying. I don't understand why you can't say where are you getting picked up and where are you leaving, and then that would collect that data. I mean, I'm not any kind of data scientist or a computer genius, and I feel like I could probably figure out how to collect that data of where people are going.
You stayed in the Holiday Inn last night, didn't you?
All of a sudden, that's the convenience now. No, but I mean, I'm just saying, you're already have an online ticket system.
Right.
So like, I mean, it's not that further of a jump to say, you know, where are you going to get the bus and where will you be getting off? I mean, maybe there's more data that's needed than that, but.
Transit system that's run as a business.
I mean, some other things about who your employer is or what your purpose for traveling is, I mean, you know, okay, but there again, like, okay, well.
Thank you,
Don't work
Cecil.
on the data, thank you, Cecil. Anything else from
Thank
you
you.
about CIO or TC?
Do we agree we want Elizabeth to a letter?
Yeah, I think the letter would be good.
I didn't see any consensus.
And what I'm hearing is that the framework is that you want the funding that's generated in our corridors to stay in our corridors.
Yeah, if
You
it
support
helps
bus
pay,
stay,
fine,
funding
pay
bus
for
stay.
help to support our corridor, but taking our money and moving it to I-70 is not feasible. And I also think we should get with our legislatures too and start telling them with this bill. But I think we start with DC.
Is there a draft out there yet? You guys?
The draft bill?
Yeah.
I'm sure
No, I
can
don't,
swing
I
one
don't.
out by
think
No.
ChatGPT by the
No.
end of the
There's no
week. I
draft.
say, I don't think there is.
There is not a draft bill, and I think they're running into some of the legal issues that I explained last, or had a hard time explaining to y'all because they're complicated last time. They're having to work through the AG's office to see, and that's why it's I think it'll be a last minute bill, quite frankly. I really encourage any of you who are really interested in this and watching that our workshop at 12:30 a week from next Wednesday. Well, I don't know what the date is. I don't have it right in front of me. And just a second here. It'll be March 18th. At 12:30 on the CDOT website. You can log on there and you can watch us. It'll be and if you can't watch it, then it's on YouTube. It's recorded later. You can watch it later. But I really think you'll hear a lot of new information, and I'm hoping to hear a whole lot more new information. And there may just be a surprise or two come out of that.
Well, we'll hope it's a good surprise. All right, anything else for Cecil before we let him go?
And I'm sorry it took so long, but I think you all ought to know where this thing is. And so thank you for your patience and letting me.
Thank you. No, good information, a lot
Thank
for
you,
us.
Cecil.
We will send a letter.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Front Range Passenger Rail. Mr. John Mallow.
Can I settle here? I have no idea. how the
Yeah, you could
microphone-
absolutely sit over there.
Yeah, so you control things. That's been my push since first night. Well, I'm sure hoping Cecil gets there. That's it's also a reflection on passenger rail. We're doing two different tracks, but what that happens there affects passenger rail. It's from a consumer standpoint. So I sure hope Cecil gets it fixed and we can move forward. I'm kind of behind, so I'll be real quick. Chair, okay with that.
No, you're fine.
It is town hall season for passenger rail. We've got three things to do before we finally decide whether or not we want to take this to the ballot. One of which is outreach, public outreach. Another is cost and cost analysis, and we're working hard on that. We saw some preliminary numbers on that last week, actually. And the last thing, of course, is polling. See how that's what killed the project 2 months ago. So we'll see how that goes this time, 2 years ago. So time flies, though. So our goal is to have 22 town halls by the end of phase one. Phase one is basically, it's not a hard date, but it's when we have to decide, whether we're going to go with. And that will be the end of phase one. That will be roughly June, maybe the beginning of July. So 22 town halls, that's the goal. And one has already occurred with 8 fully scheduled. Just so you know how this is going to work in different communities. The ones that are scheduled or more or less firm are the 8 communities up and down the Front Range. And there's a lot of planning, et cetera, that's going on with that. We hired some subcontractors to help us with that. The vision here is from speakers from Front Range Passenger Rail to be their local elected officials, subject matter experts from CDOT, and a subcontractor we hired called Proximity Green, which is a real estate firm, a project manager. It's one of several contractors we hired actually to help us through this process. So one thing that keep your eyes open for me, if you would. The outreach includes some social media postings, things along those lines. If you come across a question or whatever that you can't answer, let me know or another board member know, and we'll get you that. We want to be as transparent as we can as we move forward. We're using, and I didn't know about this business. It's called Mobilize. It's an online. It seems to be pretty local, at least regional, and so they're helping us with some of the actions we have to get done and turning volunteers into donors, building community around your cause, achieve your mission. All of that is to sell the project. Like I mentioned, we're going to have some support from posters, flyers, social media promotion. I've already seen some of these from on Facebook, from Pueblo actually. We're kind of going south and going north, but if you see some of that and we have your support, which I hope we do, you can forward that along to the friends.
You don't need a fan. Well, counties anymore. You don't even have to come up there.
You're right. It saves us a little bit. So just so you know, we got a firm date for Fort Collins planning meeting, which is Thursday, March 12th. I got an invite. Hopefully some of you did as well. That's kind of a planning before the event. Then the town hall itself in Fort Collins is March 30th. That's going to be here at City. This isn't City Hall. Where's City Hall? Okay, that's where it's going to be.
This is county help job.
Yeah, I was thinking of a sign out front that says county. And I the coordinator, the project manager for Fort Collins is a gentleman by the name of Seth Borson. I don't know, but he's going to head up this Fort Collins Town Hall. And then Loveland's is being planned for April 16th. That's at the Pulliam Community Center. We got that funded.
I don't know who the guy was that pushed that one through.
That's Thursday, April 16th, and Anna Rose. Did not see her.
Yep, she's back there.
There she is. She's you're still the project manager, right?
Yes.
For Loveland. So she's working on that. We don't have firm agendas on that yet, but we got quite a bit more time than Fort Collins does. So that's an update there. Any questions from me? We good, Madam Chair?
Yeah, no questions on from the passenger. And then I think we'll be getting a visit from some next week.
Oh, you got some
He'll
stuff.
be
Good.
presenting to you guys, yeah.
Good. You know, he lives down by Levels.
He will be virtual.
That's
He not-
okay.
he won't be in person,
Okay.
but we're happy at least for getting a virtual presentation.
Fantastic.
So-
Good.
And then we did share out the email or the links, so you guys can sign up for the public, the town halls on the app that John was talking about.
Love to have all your support. Thank you.
Thanks, John. All right, moving along, we've got finance committee written, executive summary written, Van Gogh dashboard quarter 4 written, legislative updates written, mobility program updates written. Now on to our action item, which is a February 2026 tip amendment. Jonathan.
Hello, everyone. The February 2026 TIP amendment includes 3 project additions and 1 pool addition from various agencies. The first addition is a project from Larimer County with the project US 34 and the Canyon Edge Open Space Safety and Access Improvements. This project features $1,250,000 of local help preserve open spaces or HPOS sales tax in future funding. This project will provide a primary entrance to a new 1,500 acre open space in West Loveland, which will include bike and pedal shoulders. The next two project additions are from Colts in Loveland. The first project is titled Transit Operating, which features 220,500 state Senate Bill 230 funding and 24,500 local funding, all in our fiscal year 26. This project increases bus frequency on 3 local routes. Please note, the project is anticipated to have recurring costs in future fiscal years, but those amounts are currently unknown. The second Colt project is titled Transit Vehicle Purchase. This project features 611,540 Senate Bill 230 funding, 67,927 local funding for fiscal year 26. This project purchases 3 new buses for Colt. Finally have the one pool addition to our tip. This pool is for the non-attainment area air pollution mitigation enterprise or NATME funding. This pool comes with 4 projects total, 4 from Fort Collins, which are the Taft Hill widening and connecting North College, 1 project from Greeley, which is Greeley Connect Mobility, and Loveland with US 34 and US 287 access project. The total state NAPME amount is 3,612,937, and the total amount is, or total local amount is 843,987, all in fiscal year 26. Please note that after the pool is added to the tip, all future product additions will be modifications unless the total amount is above 5 million. The public comment period opened on, write it down, I think it was February 18th and will close on March 20th. The approval of this amendment is contingent on there being no negative public comments by the end of that period. The environmental and demographic impact analysis for the Laramie County project that we found in the packet. NFRMPO staff noted no disadvantages and tax supported adding the February 2026 tip amendment to the fiscal year 24 and 27 tip at their meeting on February 18th.
Thank you. Any questions on these projects or the pool addition? If not, I'll entertain a motion for resolution 2026-04.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Anyone abstaining? That unanimously passes. Thank you. Okay. We are now on the NFRMPO Planning Council Transit Representative, Elizabeth.
Okay, I just wanted to get officially have a discussion with you. Looking back in our notes from 2022, when the council was first told that they had to put a transit representative on the council, you had a great discussion, you adopted a resolution, and I have no documentation on who our transportation representative is, our transit representatives. I know who it was because I was at the meeting, so I remember.
Oh, I remember too. I was freaking
So-
cool.
So ironically, Loveland and Fort Collins were newer reps and Johnny was the most seasoned. So our transit representative has to be at least Greeley, Loveland, or Fort Collins because you are our transit operators. And so ironically, we are in a, I guess, similar situation. I wanted to revisit with you that you guys are still okay with
I'm willing
With
to give
Johnny.
it up.
so we need, for the purpose of documentation, as we are getting ready to enter into a quadrennial review, it would be great if we had documentation on who our transit representative is on our council. And so I would like at our next meeting, depending on who you guys would like to formalize that being by resolution so that I can get it officially on the record. I was hoping that you guys would be okay with me, I guess, continuing that Councilman Olson is our transit representative on the council, but I would open it for discussion, and I wanted to give you guys some backgrounds of how we got there, and what I'm looking for is.
Councilmember, are you willing to serve in that role?
I think you guys should serve.
No.
The expectation is, again, when we have anything related to transit, you are speaking on behalf of our council as the transit representative for our council.
Like Mustang or, yeah, no, I understand.
I'm right, so. And I know Fort Collins is in here, but.
And they're not here.
Well, and the nice thing about Johnny is he doesn't hold back. So
And I'm not against transit.
you're not, and you're well versed. You know what you're talking
I'll
about,
do
which
it
I
if
think is
I'm
really.
not saying I won't do it.
Do we have a term for it or anything, or is it just kind of that?
Just whoever's on the council, if I didn't win my election, you guys have had to replace me.
Correct. Correct.
And that person would have been doing that.
Probably.
Do you need any kind of motion to put in Councilmember Olson's name in the and you're bringing back a resolution next
Well,
month?
so we would bring a resolution back to you guys next month. I just didn't want to write it and be presumptuous to put his name in there. If you guys were like, no, we want somebody
I
else.
nominate Councilmember Olson.
I'll second that nomination.
Any further nominations?
Discussion. Just kidding.
All
I'll do it, I don't.
all in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, say nay. Anyone abstaining? The ayes have it, and we will,
Hey, yourself?
I can't.
we will have an official resolution next month. For
I didn't
that.
have, I'm only thinking in the whole 4 years that I did it, I think I only had 2 or 3 things that I had to say to do. It's not like a huge ordeal, unless you guys say, hey, Johnny, why don't you go down and do something. Transit hasn't really come up.
We can guess the question.
When I had Will back to me, but he's no longer back, that's why I threw it.
Welcome back, you.
I think we have an alternate. We have an
Ooh,
alternate.
you let it really because of me.
Do we need an alternate?
So I feel like FHWA and FTA are gonna want a council representative.
Okay.
And Becky, maybe correct me if you think I'm.
It has to be someone who is elected on the council.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to appoint.
Is that an
a
alternate?
transit representative.
But do you want, I mean, I'm saying could Mayor McFall be an
I
alternate?
was gonna say, I have no problem being the alternate.
We can
See?
we can add a whereas to the resolution. That's not a problem at all.
We make that formal.
My job is
Sure.
to keep you healthy.
I'll make that nomination for a alternate.
Second,
Second.
motion is second that Mayor McFall will be the alternate transit representative. Any further discussion? Any further nominations? Seeing none, all in favor of the alternate position going to Mayor McFall, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay.
Nay. I gotta keep it consistent over here.
Any abstentions? All right, the ayes have it. Congratulations, we have our 2 representatives. And we'll look forward to seeing that resolution next month. All right. Amended FY 2026-2027 UPWP 2026 fiscal year 2026 budget. Elizabeth.
Right, so again, we're in audit season. We've received contracts since the last time this was presented to you. It's my understanding that it isn't uncommon to have amended budgets as our contracts come through because our original budgets are based on estimates. So this is essentially truing up the budget for 2026 based on the contracts we've received. Originally for the 5310 urban, we had an estimate in there based on previous funding years. We did not apply for urban this for 2026. So we're basically bringing that one down to 0. And then the other ones just reflect our contract amounts. So I'm going to fix some of the math here because apparently I must have been having an out of body experience. I was trying to do addition. So I will fix that for the resolution for when you guys have to take action for next month. But essentially what I'm asking you guys for is moving forward at the next council meeting with amending our budget based on the contracts that we actually have executed.
All right, any questions for Elizabeth on this item? So, or to that resolution as well. Next item, 2025 TMO call for projects. I'm going to review my views. Welcome. That works. Or am I
Okay. So thank you. The 2025 call for projects. Next slide, please. This is the award overview. And next slide. The TMO call for project had 6 goals. Number 1 was mobility, reduce congestion and improve air quality. Goal 2 was connectivity and strengthen regional links. Goal 3 was sustainable projects, invest in financially and technically sustainable projects. Goal 4 was accessibility, advanced access for all. Goal 5 was innovation, and goal 6 was local commitment. Next slide. This shows the anticipated timeline that we had, and that brings us to today for council discussion and the presentation. Next slide. So the funding estimates for years 25 to 27 is $400,000. Next slide. And recommendations, project scoring and recommendations. Next slide. The committee of scoring consisted of 3 NPO staff members. It was myself, Aaron Holler, mobility planner, and 1 member of the planning team, which was Jerome. Next slide. And these were the 3 categories that we scored. They were weighted at 50%, 25%, 25%. The categories were mobility and connectivity, sustainable projects and local commitment, and accessibility and innovation. And under each category, there was the goals related to that category. The possible score was 15, or the highest score. And we received 1 project, which was from Go NoPo 34 TMO. And go to the next slide, please. And that scored an 11. Next slide. The projects for that TMO would reach the whole 34 corridor from Kersey to Estes Park. Next slide. This was taken to TAC for recommendations last month. And after discussing it with TAC, their recommendation was to award the full $400,000 for years 25 to 27 to the 1 applicant. Next slide, please. So the next steps would be taking it back to TAC for action, and April 2nd, bringing it to you all for council action, and on April 3rd, the announcement of funding. Next slide. And we actually have Jacqueline here, who is the executive director of the NoCo 34, and she has a few slides she'd like to share with you, and if you have any questions for her, she will.
He's not a stranger to any of us. He also hear about.
Hi. Didn't know I was sharing my slides. Thank you for having me. My name is Jacqueline, for those who I don't know. Everyone looks very familiar. So hi, happy Thursday. Next slide, please. So we're going to go over very quickly because I know we're behind on time. The project introduction, the breakdown of our budget, and what we plan to do with the award if we are awarded the funding. Next slide. This is our proposed program introduction. So, right now we've been really focused on partnerships and stakeholder engagement, getting the name out there. Like if I go into a room and do a presentation, everybody's heard of us. So that's what we've been focused on. But now we're really focused on the actual programming, getting communities to engage with the TMO. Our proposed programs are broken down into 4 different programs: a tri-transit pilot, a van pool awareness and incentive program that complements the Van Go program that currently exists, bike education and events, since we have beautiful weather now during winter, and beautiful trails, and data collection and targeted outreach. Next slide.
There's your answer, data collection commission.
But not for busting.
You take on your own.
As you can see, we've broken down in 3 different categories. Our staffing category, which primarily focuses on TDM programming. Our annual direct costs, which is taken directly off of our current approved budget. And our program costs, which includes incentives for tri-transit, our biker trainer fees, our van pool incentive program that goes over and above what the state already offers. And the ending budget is just a little underneath that 400,000 threshold. Next slide. And in conclusion, as a wrap up, so with this additional funding, really gives us a chance to grow and shine, hire some more staff. So it's not just me that you see all the time talking. We are looking at increased VMT reduction, better awareness and access through targeted marketing and incentives, a robust data collection system for continuous program evaluation and improvement, more innovative programming specific to the US 34 corridor demographic, a larger pool of employers to reach through our community outreach and events, and an increased regional collaboration, including the smaller communities in NFRMPO. Next slide. Thanks for having me.
I mean, I think a lot of us are familiar with the team, but it's good to see the projects. So we will, yeah,
It'll come back to you guys next month for,
Yeah.
or I mean,
come back to the town.
for action. It goes to TAC and you guys.
Okay. So now again, something.
Your first TMO funding call for projects is officially almost.
I have another question. So that's CRP funded. How long does CRP funding go to? Like, I mean, it was part of the IIGA, so how long is that, is the span of time like through that fiscal year?
27.
27, and that is,
This call was 25 to 27.
okay. And that would be the final allotment for
This
CRP
is a
dollars?
continuous resolution of the transportation
Okay,
organization.
and if it's included.
And actually, from what we've seen so far, is that they are talking about keeping CRP in. So that did somewhat surprise me.
That's not surprising you too. All right, to that Commissioner James. All right. Well, thank you, Tanya, and thank you, Jacqueline, for the presentations. Appreciate that. Look forward to that resolution next month. The regional transportation plan kickoff. That sounds fun, Jerome and Michaela. Tell us about that.
Lots of fun.
Ah, so much fun.
And we're not being sarcastic, it is fun.
No, I mean, I don't think it is.
Everybody likes what they like.
All right, so I'm Michaela. I'm joined with Jerome tonight. We work at the NPO. We're both transportation planners, and we're here to talk about the kickoff of our regional transportation plan. And so just a little bit of an overview on what exactly this is, either if you or if you're a little bit newer member, being on the planning council. I pulled this quote from the previous RTP. So every 4 years, the NPO engages stakeholders to develop a new long-range transportation plan for the region. The purpose of the RTP is to develop a program of projects and strategies based on identified goals and performance measures, expected population and job growth, available funding, and projects identified by local communities. So in a nutshell, we have to update this plan every 4 years. This is really like the biggest plan that we update as an NPO. The plan must be submitted by its deadline. It will be adopted by you all in September of 2027. It considers all travel modes. It must have a minimum 20-year planning horizon. Projects included in the plan must be fiscally constrained. We do also have an additional small section on unconstrained projects, but big focus is on projects that are funding secured or reasonably anticipated. And then we must meet federal air quality reporting requirements and state GHG reduction requirements.
And so staff has been looking at other RTPs across the country and the state to get some inspiration. We've also taken a look at our previous RTP to see what's good, what maybe isn't working. So some of the changes we're anticipating for this plan. The first one, as Elizabeth mentioned earlier, we have to follow the state's visual accessibility standards. So we're reworking colors right now, and it'll take some more time for us to get our final product in the document. So we're having to build in some time into our process to do that correctly. We've always done a few of smaller plans with these standards in place. This is our first really big plan to have to do this for. We're also restructuring our chapters and our subsections some. More on that in a moment with what exactly we're doing, but we're adding in more chapters and we're rearranging where some of the content goes. Even as staff, sometimes we're like, I don't know where this section is, and this is our own plan. So we're trying to make it a little bit more intuitive to find things within the plan. We've also moved some items from the plan into appendices. This makes it easier to update them as needed. For example, this is our system support. That's something that every time we update our performance measures should be updated. So it's much easier to do that when it's an appendix to the plan. And staff has been voting on a plan name. We've never had a dedicated name for the plan before. It's always just been the Regional Transportation Plan. And we have landed on Connected Communities 2050. So you all are the first group to hear that. We didn't even have that news for TAP whenever we.
So we should have.
I know.
You can imagine it.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. So a little bit on the process and the timeline. This is a much more high level schedule than what we've been working with. That one's very overwhelming, trust me. So we'll begin at the top with our models. So we have two models that we use for all of our planning efforts, especially with the RTP. The first one's a land use allocation model, and the second is a regional travel, thank you. Regional travel demand model, there's too many TDMs. Development, we anticipate that model to be completely done by Q2 of 2027. I do want to add a note that the model will be usable before then. That is when we'll get the final model from the consultant, but we will have a functioning model before that. And then for performance measures, we are beginning to work on the goals and objectives for that. For this is referring to our regional performance measures. Federal performance measures, we don't really control that schedule. That is dependent on when CDOT adopts their targets, then we would have 180 days to respond. These are for the regional targets that's set by this council, where we determine what is regionally significant and what we want to track for system performance. And then we set those targets ourselves. We anticipate that target setting will be done by Q2 of 2027. And then the process of determining those measures will be Q2, Q3 of 2026. So you will hear from us about that here soon. We then have our financial element. So we are anticipating having a call for projects starting Q3, Q4 of this year. We also have a tip update that goes along with that as well. And then we have our associate plans that cover more specific travel modes that feed into our regional transportation plan. So with that, that's our public involvement plan, which outlines how us as an organization, how we do public involvement and engage with our stakeholders. We have the freight plan and then the act transportation plan, which we will hear about next month, as well as our congestion management process. And throughout this entire process, we will be doing outreach and stakeholder engagement with, as Michaela mentioned, RTP approval in September 2027. Oh, thank you by itself. So this is our outreach and stakeholder input. So as part of our public involvement plan, we come up with a outreach schedule and outreach plan before we go out to plan. And with that, we establish phases. So the first phase for our outreach strategy is goals and problem statement. And the purpose of that phase is to really educate our stakeholders and the public on what is the regional transportation plan, what's the purpose, what are the benefits, and begin the process. And we are currently in that phase. We're anticipating that to be Q1 and Q2 of this year. Phase 2 is visioning. and that is looking at our regional corridors, as well as the projects are along those corridors. With that, we do get quite a bit of public feedback on those corridors, what are their experiences on the corridor and what is the public's vision for those corridors long-term all the way out to 2055. Part of that will be determining what those corridors are. And then once that is determined, getting that public feedback, as well as getting projects from our local agencies. Phase 3, and that is Q2 2026 out to Q4 2026. So then phase 3 is scenario planning. And with that, as a part, this is one of our federal requirements for our regional transportation plan is that we do have to do scenario planning. And what we do is we come up with 4 to 5 scenarios that we're able to model. We have some that we do have to do. One of that is a no build. So what does our system look like in 2055 if we didn't spend 1 additional cent? I'll give you a heads up, it does not look good. We then do a full build, which is if every plan in the if every project in the plan is fully funded and fully implemented by 2055, how does that look? And then we have some that we're able to choose from. For the 2050 RTP, for example, one of the ones that we've done is a high density scenario. So we looked at increasing densities, particularly in downtown areas, and see how that impacts our system. We do go to TAC to get feedback on what scenarios we should include. So we do not know what scenarios will be included for this plan. That will come a little bit down the line. But that is one of the things we go back to TAC to engage. And then phase 4 is closing the feedback loop. And that is wrapping everything up, going back with stakeholders we engage with the entire time, give them an update how it went, go through the public comment period, and then ultimately get the plan adopted and look at what went well, what didn't go well to help us prepare for the next RTP 4 years down the line. So then we can go a little bit into the structure of the plan. So we did, as Michaela mentioned, we did add some additional chapters. The 2050 RTP, I believe, had 4 or 5 chapters. We now have 7. So chapter 1 is introduction, and that is really explaining who are we as an organization and what is this plan, what is the purpose, and explain the regulation around those plans. Chapter 2 is regional context, and that's really telling the story of who are we as a region outside of this organization. So we look at our multimodal transportation system, what's the existing conditions, and we also look at our socioeconomic and demographic information to see who are we planning for. Chapter 3, this is a new addition, is safety and resiliency. With, as Elizabeth mentioned during her update, our safety numbers are not good. So as part of that, we want to pull safety out as a separate chapter so we can do a little bit more of a deep dive. So that chapter will have transportation safety as well as our system resiliency. And that is really looking at our system's ability to respond to natural disasters, particularly up here, we have floods and fires. So looking at that. Chapter 4 is emerging technology. And this one's a little more flexible. These are just some things we have identified for now, but other things may pop out throughout the planning process. And if those do, we will include that into the plan. So what we have now is autonomous vehicles and VMS, artificial intelligence, electrification, and fiber and broadband. Chapter 5 is our regional transportation vision. So these are going to be our regional corridors and the vision plans for those, as well as those scenarios I mentioned earlier. This is really looking at what do we want our system to be by 2055. Another change that we made for this plan is we have separated the chapter that had all of our financing to funding the financing when we look at the dollars, and then chapter 7's projects, where we look at the project in a little bit more detail. We did that so that when member agencies, public, whoever's looking at the plan wants to find the projects with funding, it's a lot more clear where that is. And then our various appendices, which the RTP will have quite a few. And with that, we would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I just have a question about fiscally constrained projects. Like, a lot of that is forecasting. Like, we don't really know, like, kind of, I mean, we're assuming that we would get certain dollars from the federal government to do these projects or from the state, or Is that how that works? And there's some just forecasting and hopefulness about getting the funding for some of these projects.
Yes.
Or, right?
Planning level to this. For me, so we get revenue projections, I see that.
Okay.
Out to whatever year their current statewide plan is, so it's 2015, and we had to do some revenue projections on our own for those next 5 years.
Okay.
Anything that is reasonably anticipated to be funded, so we can assume there's gonna be some sort of reauthorization bill, there could be increase in the gas tax, things like that.
Local money.
Yeah, that we can take into consideration and say, okay, this is reasonably anticipated, and that's already there.
Just curious about how that works. Just because it seems like it's really uncertain right now, and like money we thought we had 2 days ago, we don't even have, so some of that is just kind of thinking. Anything else? All right, well, let us know. So you'll be at events too, you'll be collecting information from the public as well as.
Yes. We will have RTP specific outreach as well as really pushing the RTP for our regular outreach as well.
Okay.
We're still determining what the RTP specific outreach will look like. But we will have that specific RTP outreach.
So if we have like an event where we think you guys would get some good stuff, we can invite you or something.
Please do.
Yes,
Absolutely.
please.
If you know those events, we do have this email, the planning@nfrmpo.org. We are requesting that communities send all their questions to that email because that goes into all the planning staff's inbox. So whoever, because this plan is so big that it's split up amongst the whole organization. So we can make sure that that question gets answered by the right person.
You guys are gonna be hearing RTP so much. That's
You're gonna get sick of it.
kickoff. This is your official.
This is my first one ever.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, how long have I been on the board that this isn't the first time I've done this? Apparently, it's longer than I thought.
It's 4 years.
30 years at CDOT, starting in 1992.
I'm not as old as you, Johnny.
Well, it's too late to do the math on that. So, well, thank you both. We appreciate it. We'll look forward to that, and we'll send you any ideas that we have.
Just a note, you're gonna be hearing from all of our planning team members about this throughout the entire process. Whenever it comes to our general high level RTP updates, you'll hear from one of us, but each of us are working on different pieces of the RTP. So you're gonna hear a lot from us over the next year and a half. So just a heads up.
Yeah, we'll be spreading the love.
Yes.
Get ready. I like the new chapters too. Good idea. All right, we're on item 24, Transportation Commission. Is Cecil still on? Or
He said he did it during the.
He did it. He did it.
Yeah,
It's good. Okay. That's what I heard, but I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything else. All right, staff report. At staff, we have the legislative report. So that's what we were talking a little bit about, is that MMLF funding is going away entirely, except for a small portion that will be dedicated to bus day. So about half the MMLF funding comes from the general fund. That's what's being cut, the $10 million. The rest comes from the retail delivery fees. That will still be in place. So we will likely have to do the exercise that we did last year around what we're gonna do. You know, do we push those, can those dollars be pushed out? Can those projects, if those projects don't need them for a couple of years? Can we find other funding for some of those projects? You know, what that looks like. So to be, you know, the budget isn't final, so that is not set in stone, but it is likely to happen since there's no money. So I think we should anticipate for a world where MMLF doesn't exist. And so we will, you know, as it comes down, we'll take a look at how we need to deal with those projects. And I think that TAC helped us a lot last time, and we'll probably, I think they're excited to hear that. Thank you. So thank you, TAC.
The general fund doesn't put much money in DOT, so whatever the DOT get.
Right, I think that's safe. We also talked about we sent the recommended budget to the Transportation Commission. We got a preview of the statewide transportation improvement project tracker, so if you want to look at what's on the STIP, you can.
New software,
New
they got a new
software.
system,
New system, so, sorry.
there's a map.
No, it's getting late, no one's super excited about that, and then we have an overview of busting, which I think we went over in detail, same slides as Cecil just showed us, so. To be continued, the only thing I would say about the busting that was mentioned was that Senate Bill 24-184, which was a congestion improvement bill, was also suggested as possible funding, which, you know, is when John was talking about there's some competition maybe between rail and transit. I mean, that's where that competition would be, because those dollars, I believe, were initially designated for rail, and now they, you know, I don't know if any dollars will come from there or the portion will, or what the plan is, but anyway, that was another source of
So timing it, here.
funding.
Like, can they use some of those funds immediately, or can it go to busting
Or we
instead?
have to just wait to see what the rail uses, so it's unclear, but that was the only other transportation, that was the only other fund that was mentioned with those conversations. Okay. And host council member report. Look at all I've been doing is reports today. I know Eric Tracy got this ready for me, so I'm just gonna read this up. Sorry, just take deep breaths so that.
I think that the Zoom meeting has been working well tonight. I mean, it seems like everybody's been able to hear, so I appreciate this configuration for this as well.
Good. On the other hand, we haven't heard from many people online, so.
No.
I guess we heard from Cecil, so, right, I mean, that was good, and I did hear some people voting, so we should be good. All right, thank you all for coming to Barron County Budget. A few updates that we have, for our build grant that we received. That is the Country Club Road corridor design. That sounds a little hotsy-totsy. It is a county road that goes by the Country Club. We're finalizing an agreement with Federal Highway Administration. Haven't seen any movement on this agreement in months. That does not bode well. But so we'll probably be following up on that one. Multiple grants that we had on Taft Hill. We're anticipating starting construction this summer or fall, depending on funding match approvals from Fort Collins in April and the IGA amendments with CDOT. For our MMOF grant, as I said in the upper front range, RIP on MMOF. It's the Twitter Trail project. Construction of the trail improvement is complete. We're waiting on the final installation of fencing before announcing an official opening. Spent the MMOF money while we had it. And then finally, the off system BRO grant. We applied to fund the placement of a bridge on Taft Hill Road between Highway 287 and Douglas Road, but we're unsuccessful. We're working and completing the design to be more competitive in future rounds of funding. For the road grant.
Bridge, off system, or off system bridge.
Yeah. It's good.
There's not a lot of funding in that, but
Yeah. Sorry. Well, there you go. That's another reason why the basics funding addresses bridges. So with that, I don't have anything else. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, seeing none and seeing faces that look like they want to get home. It is 8:18 and we're adjourned. Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Plus things in too much time.
That's okay. 18 is bad.
You did good.
That was good. Oh, have you had the announcement that's gonna be?
So, I've got.
it is a big deal. It's a huge deal. Then you know what?
We gotta get, yeah, so we're up like, I'm gonna say, just because I love it.